Elderly man at my local Food Lion, by usernode Pretty Lil Thing. I, 39, NB, do the grocery shopping for my family, parents who I live with. Mainly because I have the time but also because I enjoy it. It gets me away from the house and I'm a bit of an organizational nerd. I enjoy playing grocery Tetris in the cart. I like finding deals. I enjoy clipping coupons. I even have a list of each aisle and what's on it for maximum grocery list planning. So, my grocers know me. They recognize me. If they don't see me for a while, they charge up like my favorite auntie, hands on hips, where have you been? Why haven't you been in to see me? I love my store. So, this happened a few years ago, around the first year of the pandemic. I'd stopped in to pick up a few things. I had written things down a bit out of order because I'd scribbled it while I was at work. I had my store map though and was consulting it when I nearly bumped into an older gentleman. When I say older, I don't mean 50s. This man was closer to 80. He apologized and seemed flustered, so I asked him if he was all right. I'm lost, he said despairingly. I can't find X, I can't remember what he'd been looking for, it might have been sugar or coffee or something simple like that. I glanced at my map to confirm before telling him which aisle. He thanked me and then, completely bereft and almost seeming to give up, said, my wife used to do the shopping for us. 50 years. She's been gone a month and I don't know how to do this. My heart instantly broke. I asked him what else he was looking for. He showed me his list. I accompanied him while we found all the items he'd come looking for and a few others. It wasn't much, the bare essentials for a single man for the week, and we were done in about 15 minutes. As we shopped, we talked. His wife had caught COVID and fought for almost 4 weeks before passing away. I ended up giving him my map hoping it would help him as he acclimated to this new task. As he headed for the checkout and I prepared to go back to my shopping, I still only had 2 or 3 of my own items in my basket. I heard him say to one of the floor managers, that young lady right there deserves a raise, and the floor manager smiled at me and said, oh, I'd love to, but she doesn't work here. The old man looked at me, tears in his eyes, and thanked me. I told him I'd been happy to do it. I still am. It's been 3 years and I still think about him from time to time, wondering/worrying if he's okay. I helped an old man with his grocery shopping and he thought I worked there, but I didn't. Crunch time in the parking lot, by username1. This happened last week after my son's soccer practice. I just had a few minutes between finishing work and having to drive my son, 10M, to soccer, so I did what I normally do and grabbed the first shirt off the top of the pile in the drawer and put it on, without a second thought. I work from home, so I haven't shaved for a few days, so I did look a bit grungy. At the same time, my wife had laid out my son's clothes for soccer, including a bright yellow soccer shirt with the appropriate overpriced logo on it. It wasn't until some other parents at the practice started teasing me that we were shirt twins that I realized that the shirt I was wearing was also bright yellow, Sen's logo. So we laughed, the kids practiced and all was good. During practice, my wife messaged me and asked if we could pick up some groceries, milk, bread, so we drove over to the local grocery store, a typical day. When we got to the store, the closest parking spot had a few carts in it, so my son helpfully got out to move the carts while I pulled in. He pushed a few to the return area nearby, and kept one for us, again a typical boring day getting groceries. As I got out, and grabbed the cart my son left for me, and he came back, some woman parked next to us was putting her groceries in her SUV and we heard her say something like, I'm done with my cart, but of course we didn't pay attention. About 30 seconds later, we heard metal scraping on metal, and turned to see the lady backed into the cart she left behind her SUV. As we started chuckling, she got out of the car and started yelling at my son that he was supposed to take the cart, and now he has to pay the damages because he didn't do his job. My son wavered between laughing, crying, and running because it was funny, but he is shy and didn't know what to do. She then started in on me, and said my employee didn't take the cart, as others, including the cart people with the bright orange vest, started coming around to try to understand what was happening. Avoiding cursing in front of my son, I told her to shut up. He obviously doesn't work here, since 1. He is wearing a soccer uniform with a giant swoosh on the front, and 2. He is a 10-year-old kid. She then started saying I should have moved the cart since obviously my yellow shirt meant I worked there, and the crowd of 5 or 6 people who formed started laughing at her. The cart guy walked up to her and told her he needed her to come into the store to talk to the manager because of the damages, and that he will make sure we will be taken care of. We checked that there was no damage to our car, and got the groceries, and when we were checking out, a cashier ushered us to a new lane that had no line so we could get out quickly while the lady was still heard arguing with the manager about insurance. You don't work here, buddy, by user Inky1231. EDA, had to fix a word doubling and it erased part of the story too. I wanted to share a slightly different story on this sub. We always get Karens assaulting people etc, so I had to share this one from about 10 years ago. My 5-year-old son and I were in the wall of marts doing some shopping. Now for this story, it is important to note that my son has a fairly unique name. For this story we will call him Kiefer. While we were looking for things for my husband's birthday there was an announcement saying Kiefer to the garden center. My and I were amused about another Kiefer being around. I turned to look for my son's reaction and he was walking away towards the garden center. I said, "Buddy, where are you going?" He stopped and looked at me. "Mommy, they called me to the garden center." "Buddy, you don't work here." He wasn't convinced, so we had to go to the garden center where he was thrilled to meet a teenager with the same name as his. A wholesome I don't work here, by user vegan.io. I was shopping in an outdoor store after work one afternoon. The workers at this place are pretty decked out in vests with radios attached to them and outdoor wear underneath, so their uniforms are pretty distinctive. I'm a nurse, so I was wearing my scrubs from earlier in the day. I was looking at the clearance rack when some guy came up and asked me, "Excuse me, where do y'all keep the winter jackets?" And I responded, "Over there, but I don't work here." The guy stopped and looked at my scrubs and said, "I don't know how I could have been this stupid." Just then another guy started howling with laughter behind the rack we were next to. He came around with tears in his eyes, cracking up, and said that was the funniest shit I've ever heard, and kept laughing. Eventually his laughter spread to me and the other guy, and the three of us were just laughing uncontrollably in the middle of the store. Pretty great moment if you ask me. You work next to them. You should know, by user dark_link_1996. This just happened like 2 months ago. Context: I work for my company's recycling buyback center where people can bring recycling in to get paid. So, me and my 2 other co-workers are just chilling talking about random stuff until we need to open. We see a woman in a 2011 white Range Rover. She had a bit of an accent too. I assume Middle Eastern. Characters: me and Karen. Karen pulls up and waves us down. "Excuse me, I have a question to ask." Me walks up to her car. "Hi there, how can we help you?" Karen: "Hi, I'm trying to get rid of some sand and paint that was used for construction. Do you guys accept this here?" Me: "Sorry ma'am, we don't accept that here, we only," gets cut off. Karen: "But I checked your website and it says you do take it." Me: "Ma'am, we're not with Waste Management, we're a different company entirely, we wouldn't be able to accept it. But if you park your car in the stall, you can go ask Waste Management where to take it." Karen: "But I can't take them, they're too heavy." Me: "No ma'am, you don't need to take it to them. Just park your car and go talk to Waste Management. They'll be able to direct you to the right location in which you can take it to." Karen: "Well, you should know how to deal with this stuff since you work next to Waste Management." Me: "Ma'am, they don't train us to dispose of paint or sand." Karen continues to rant, starts backing up and leaves all while ranting. This happens a lot because we do work next to Waste Management, and people who have stuff we can't accept usually assume we're Waste Management. We usually tell them we're not related to Waste Management but are a different company. Afterwards, we help them out by answering any questions they might have and to direct them to where they need to go.